Hi everyone! Just recently I went on a solo trip to Taiwan for 2 weeks and I've been filming a ton of different videos all about Taiwan. I filmed some videos while I was in Taiwan at the food markets, out and about, doing vlogs and stuff, and then I've also been doing solo travel videos as well. But today's video is going to be on how cheap is Taiwan. So Taiwan is pretty cheap compared to Australia or the UK. I say Australia, UK because I'm from Australia and I live in the UK. It's definitely not the cheapest country you can go to, but when it comes to the Asia region, it probably is like somewhere in between. I haven't been to Thailand or Cambodia or anything, but I have been to Vietnam. I think Vietnam's a bit cheaper and I assume they're probably a little bit cheaper, but then obviously Japan is more expensive. I think South Korea is probably more expensive. I assume it's somewhere in between. But anyway, let's get into the video because then I'll be able to explain the cost of different things, food, accommodation, all that sort of thing. This is just a general overview of the cost of things in Taiwan. I went to a few different places in Taiwan. I went to Taipei, I went to like a countryside town called Jiji, went to Tainan, Kaohsiung. So I've been to a few different places, probably not so much in the countryside, but I did find that the prices were all very similar throughout. Everything costs pretty much the same. I guess certain things in Taipei and like the cities probably cost more than in the country, but as a general rule, I'm pretty sure the food and stuff costs about the same. So first let's talk about food because that's the most important thing here. So for breakfast one day I had an egg pancake and an iced latte and that was 100 Taiwanese dollars. And then if you go to the markets, usually you can get something for about probably 30 to 100. Pretty much every night I went to the markets and got dinner. I usually would only spend about £5 a day on food. You can get stuff quite cheap, especially from the 7-Eleven. If you just want to have noodles one night, they can be less than 50 Taiwanese dollar. Definitely, probably like 20 Taiwanese dollar, which is probably 50 pence. And then I didn't really go to many restaurants. I went to one restaurant, which was a chain, I think, so it was a little bit more expensive. I got a beef noodle soup for about 160, 180 Taiwanese dollar. So a bit more expensive than probably a more local place. So that beef noodle soup was in Taipei at a chain restaurant, so it was a bit more expensive. But I did get a beef noodle soup from like a local place in Jiji, which was like a country town, for 100 Taiwanese dollar, which was £2.50. So that was quite a good price and it was a lot better than the chain restaurant one. And then bubble tea you usually can get for like about 30 Taiwanese dollar. And then alcoholic drinks, I actually didn't really drink that much in Taiwan and I didn't really take notice of how much it cost because most of the time when I was drinking I was probably a bit tipsy, but they definitely were quite cheap, I'm pretty sure, especially if you get like a local beer in a can, quite cheap. But there is a lot of different little craft like breweries in Taiwan. It's quite an underrated thing as well in Taiwan, so definitely check those out. Obviously they'll be a bit more expensive because they're a bit more boutique-y. Next is transport. So along the coast there's like just the regular train, which just takes a bit longer, and then on the other side where all the cities in town are, there's the high-speed rail. And the high-speed rail, you can go from Taipei to Kaohsiung, so from the top to the bottom of the country, in probably an hour and a half, I think, or 2 hours. It's actually really cheap for what it is, for like a high-speed rail. So from Taipei to Taichung, so that's sort of like from the top to the middle, about an hour on the train is only £13. And then from Tainan to Kaohsiung, which is only like 12 minutes, it's only £3, I think, or something like that. I think I've said cheap so many times in this video, but it's so cheap. Next is the metro, you know, like an underground metro system in Taiwan. I used that pretty much all the time because it was just super easy and it went everywhere. That's also really good value for money. All you have to do is buy an easy card, which is just a card that you top up and you scan as you walk through the barriers. I think it was probably about 20 to 40 Taiwanese dollar for like each journey. Depending on how far you went, and then the easy card itself was 100 Taiwanese dollars. Next is accommodation. I guess it's a sort of a hard one because it really depends on your budget and what sort of place you want to stay in. I stayed in a really nice little hotel in Jiji in like the country town. I think it was only 25 or 30 pounds a night and it was so nice. Like it was really artistic. It had like an eclectic mix of like different little things. Like I had all these ornaments outside and it had all these beautiful paintings in the rooms and it was just so lovely. The rooms were quite big, nice modern bathroom. Hostels can be really cheap. I stayed in a really nice modern big hostel in Taipei for £17 a night. Pretty sure you probably get one a little bit cheaper. Well worth it because it was super social, lots of different people hanging around, a big common area, which is probably what you want if you're going on your own. And then the last thing is Airbnbs. They were really good value for money as well. I didn't really look into Airbnbs too much because I wanted to be around people in a hostel, but I stayed in one Airbnb for one night in Kaohsiung. I mean, it's not the cheapest place to stay in when it comes to accommodation. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of countries that are a lot cheaper just for one little room for one night, but it's still cheap in my standards from where I'm from. And then lastly is activities, and I don't really remember paying to get into anything. Like, I didn't really go to any museums or anything like that, so I feel like I can't really account for that. But I mean, you can just quickly look at that online, I guess. If you were going somewhere, you can check the admission price. But I did do a few activities that I booked online before I went. So I booked a pub crawl and a walking tour before I went with the same company. I'll link them below. So I did the pub crawl for £18. So that included, I think, one drink and then entry into a nightclub at the end of the night. So we went to 3 different bars and we had a guide and met all these different people, so I definitely recommend that. And then I also did a free walking tour, so that's sort of based on like just giving a tip at the end. So I think I gave 10 quid. Also, I did a cooking class, which was £50, which is quite a lot of money. It was really, really good and I recommend it, but it is a lot of money to spend. So I guess that's not the cheapest thing, but you probably could get a cheaper one, I don't know. And then lastly, I just want to mention like taxis and Ubers, because I used them quite a few times in Taiwan. Like, if I couldn't really get somewhere because the MRT didn't really go there and I couldn't really be bothered catching a bus, I just got a taxi. And it was actually quite good value for money. I'm pretty sure one of them in Taipei, we drove through sort of peak hour, and I think it was like a 20-minute drive, and it only cost like £3 or so, so that's also really good value for money. Uber's really good as well because you already know the price before you set off, because it can add up depending on how long you're in the car for if you are stuck in traffic. And I think Uber is a little bit cheaper, but then you also know the price, but it's a bit annoying if you don't have phone reception if you are out and about, but also good if you're in the hostel or hotel or whatever, and you can order it from the Wi-Fi there. So that concludes my list of different things of how much things cost in Taiwan. I hope this has helped you. I hope I've given you enough information to give you a sort of clear overview of how much Taiwan will cost and how much money you'll need, because I took actually probably double the amount that I needed. So you probably could do Taiwan on about 20 to 25 pounds per day if you were doing it really, really cheap. It just depends on your accommodation that makes it more expensive. Like in Kaohsiung, we got a hostel for £10 a night, so you could easily do the hostel really cheap. You could eat at 7-Eleven, you could eat at food markets and probably still get the MRT around and still only spend maybe £25. I probably gave myself a little bit more than that, maybe 30 to 35 pounds a day. But sometimes you sort of want to have a little bit extra money because at night time you want to accommodate for maybe taking a taxi because the MRT stops at 12 PM, or if you're looking to go somewhere and the MRT doesn't go there or a bus doesn't go there, you can get a taxi, or if you are stuck or lost, you can get a taxi. So you always want to accommodate for maybe a little bit extra if something went wrong. Anyway, I hope this has helped you. Don't forget to check out all my other videos on Taiwan as well. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.